Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's. I'm not even checking
Good, how are you?
Sticking my leg.
Not just kidding. Like, you're so I know. Don't. It's pretty serious.
I know, like.
Well, yeah.
When I gave I got some else. Yeah, she's so look like that.
Richard?
Okay, thank you for coming tonight at 6 o'clock, February 4th, 2019. It's time to call the city council meeting to order. Ms. Rhodes, roll call, please.
Mr. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Austin?
Here.
Mr. Blankenship?
Here.
Mr. Eggers?
Here.
Mr. Hugen?
Here.
Mr. Wertz?
Here.
Mr. Richards?
Here.
Sir, you have a quorum?
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wertz, prayer and pledge, please.
Okay. Bow our heads, please. Father, be with this Franklin City Council. Be with our Franklin Police and Fire Departments, our first responders for the safety of our constituents. Be with the military, men and women around the world who protect all of our freedoms. Be with all city employees and our city attorney who provide the many services we enjoy in our city. Be with our mayor and our council as we conduct the business of our city, allowing positive direction and leadership. Amen. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Is there any announcements, presentations, public comments?
Mayor, it's come to our attention that one of our RDC members has resigned, and I would like to nominate Drew Eggers to take the place of Keith Fox on the RDC. He is a city council appointee.
I'd be happy to take that nomination. Thank you, Richard.
I second the motion. No one has
Okay, we have a motion and a second for Mr. Eggers to be on the redevelopment commission. Is there any other nominations at this time? Hearing none, nominations are closed. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, congratulations on your new job.
Thank you.
Any other announcements, presentations, or public comment? Hearing none, that gets us to approval of consent agenda.
Move to approve minutes from previous council meeting on 1/7/19.
second by Mr. Richards. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, there isn't any old business, so that gets us to the new business.
Move to redo business by title only.
Second.
Second by Mr. Wertz, new business by title only. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, first item, common council resolution number 19-02, resolution waiving non-compliance with tax abatement compliance requirements by Mitsubishi Turbocharger and Engine America Community Development Specialist Ronnie Oliver.
Thank you. I'm here on behalf of the Economic Development Commission. Mitsubishi Turbocharger and Engine America requested a waiver of non-compliance. They are in compliance with the city's requirements for their CF1 forms. What they're not in compliance with is forming or filing a form with the county, their form 322 RE. So in order for them to receive the tax abatement, we have to go through this exercise.
And it's just a form, it wasn't, it didn't.
Just the form, we have, I attached in your packets, they've done all their CF1 forms, they've all been approved by city council for the last, these are two different, there are two of these. This first one is for 3 years that were missed. They did file 16, 17, and 18, and they were all approved by city council.
And as I understand, they actually paid the tax, and so now they'll just get credits in future years.
Well, so it's not credits, they would get money back.
Okay, in future years.
But I think that they will cut a check to them. So it's a big sum of money that would go back to them. The Economic Development Commission has forwarded a recommendation that Mitsubishi be able to pick up where they've left off. The first 3 years that they would not necessarily get that, but that they could pick up and get the rest of the abatement. And that's what is forwarded to you on the Economic Development Commission.
And I think the reason that they thought that way, because it would be a one-time check at one time, comes right out of the TIP funds,
Correct.
and that's.
About 120,000 on this one-ish. That's just my quick math.
And with, taking back the bond, our TIF funds are not quite as, available as in the past.
Correct. So that is, their recommendation is just for them to pick up where they've left off. So they would miss out on the first 3 years of the abatement.
Well, your resolutions 1903 and 1902 the same.
They're very similar. They're just two different tax abatements. With 19, if I would do both of them together, that'll make it faster. I don't know if that's okay with Lynn too.
We should have separate motions.
Okay, okay. But, okay, so just do them separately.
Ken, how was the discussion with the EDC?
Richard, I was not at the meeting. I got with the mayor and president of the Economic Development Commission, and I had a meeting in Albany at 9 o'clock with my largest customer, and I could not be at that meeting. So I apologize to Bob and the mayor and the president of the council, or president of the Economic Development Commission. But I was not at the meeting, Richard.
But it was approved without any issues.
They were approved, they met all of their requirements and were approved by city council originally. Each of those years, Mitsubishi missed that they were not getting their tax abatement.
We've never had an issue with Mitsubishi, and they've been a good,
Yeah,
they've been a good
really
partner
good.
in the community.
Let me tell you, in the past, most of it ever went back is 1 year. And I don't know that we need to get set a precedent of going back and just because somebody doesn't apply and doesn't, doesn't comply and doesn't do their homework with their business. I don't know that we can go back and just start writing checks to people that failed to do what they needed to do. In the past, we've always allowed 1 year, and I would hate to see us go back past that.
Well, I would take Ronnie's recommendation to approve Common Council Resolution number 19-02.
I'll approve what I believe is a motion.
So I'm kind of.
I'll second it.
What are you approving? I mean, what are you approving with the 1902?
That they pick up where they left off.
Okay.
That's
I'll
how
go
1902
back.
does for you.
It's supposed to be for 3 years.
So,
They just go back to connect forward, they don't go back.
Okay. All right, I just want to make,
is that a motion?
That was
I second the motion.
okay, we have a motion Motion by Mr. Wertz, second by Mr. Houston. All those in favor? Any opposed?
Opposed.
And we have Mr. Austin is opposed. Okay, we'll go to the next one, Common Council Resolution number 19-03, a resolution waiving non-compliance with tax abatement compliance requirements by Mitsubishi Turbocharger and Engine America. Ronnie Oliver.
This is very similar to the last one. They did file their CF1s with the city of Franklin for 15, 16, 17, and 18. They were all approved. They went through Economic Development Commission, and the city council did approve them. And then they realized they had not filed their Form 322RE with the county auditor. So they did not get their tax abatement. This one would be approximately $110,000 if they went back all 4 years that were. So the Economic Development Commission has recommended that, again, they pick up where they left off them as the first 4 years of the abatement.
They know what they have to do moving forward, right? This is pretty substantial oversight by them. The tax abatements, I think, are a good thing to bring new business into the city, but it's kind of difficult to swallow somebody, when we give a gift like that, swallow somebody just not doing what they're supposed to do in return.
I do have a question, because they're not new to the city, how did they miss these 3 years?
I'm not sure.
Bob, you want to address council?
I can answer that, plus I think we need to discuss something else. This tax abatement is with Mitsubishi Heavy Industries Climate Control, not with Turbocharger and Engine. But both of those,
Are you picking this up, Kathy?
both of those really go against climate control one way or another. There's a form that you fill with, that you have to file with the county. This is our accountant, she's done that form for years
Sir, I apologize. Can
for
you come to-
the,
Sir, can both of you come to the podium, that way the recorder here can make sure we've got the accurate minutes? And introduce yourself to the record.
these are different forms.
Your name, sir, for the record?
My name is Bob Francis, I'm general manager of administration at Mitsubishi Climate Control.
And with you is?
This is Dinah.
Yeah, Dinah Clower, county manager.
Thank you, she's recording, so I just need to get that on there. Thank you.
Okay, to start with, this abatement all along was with climate control. Climate control owns the building, Turbocharger rents space in that building, so it's two different Mitsubishi companies. So that would be one thing that needs to be changed no matter what. I'm in charge of doing, I've been responsible for all the abatement work for many years with Mitsubishi, and we've always been able to do everything that we needed to do. We've always gotten our abatements, and basically it's filing for the abatement and then doing the compliance every year just to show that we're in compliance with the request. And that has gone through the city for all these years, and we've never had a problem, no issue. However, then there's another form that now, that I didn't know there was, because I don't do that part, and it's an accounting form, I believe, that goes to the county. Do you know the form number?
What was it, 322? Is it because we're in a revitalization area, or is it for everyone?
Everyone.
Everyone has to fill that, okay.
Well, this is real property, and we haven't had abatement for real property since we built the wind tunnel out there, which is probably 12, 13 years ago. This was the new construction that was on the building for the office and manufacturing area for Turbocharger. And when we did that, we've always known about the form for personal property, which has been our major abatements out there. And we've always about that form, we've always gotten our tax abatement. Well, Dinah had not worked there since we had a real property abatement, and so she wasn't aware that there's a form. Now, after we researched it and we looked later, there is a note that we should have caught, so it's not like, you know, we totally like we're in the dark. But it's sort of small print, and you gotta read it, and I don't do the accounting part, so I never read that. We've never had abatement on real property before. And so that's how we missed it. So we missed it, we did the form, did everything else, and so we missed out on a lot of money. And I understand what I'm not sure I understand what you're saying, is that you go forward from here, or maybe give us 1 year, go back on or something. If that's the case, if it was a 5 or 6 year abatement, I would hope at least if we didn't get any of that money, we could still have another 5 or 6 years of abatement. Or at least that part of it. I don't know how many years it was now, I can't remember. I don't think real property, probably not that. And so I would, if we haven't gotten anything, I would hope we would go forward for another 10 years. Now, probably depreciates and a lot of things happen. But it wouldn't take any back pay at all if you did it that way.
Well, I think, I think Krista and the Economic Development Commission was looking at it that this is not a city form. This form is not a city of Franklin form that you didn't file.
Right,
But it affects the money involved.
I understand.
Oh, you're saying that. So, Krista, what's the effect of the TIF money moving forward with this particular account? Because I know it's gotta be substantial. Sorry, Ron.
So we asked that question of the county to give us a calculation of what those differences would be. And it's in here somewhere. They broke it down. We were always under the impression when we brought you waivers of noncompliance that, because we were told by the county, that it would be a credit given to them on their next taxes. So when we dug a little further into this, this one was such a large amount, they clarified for us that it's not a credit on their taxes going forward. It would actually be, the county would cut them a check and pay them interest, on interest. And then on our next tax disbursement, which would be May, when property taxes are paid in May, we receive that disbursement from our TIF districts in June, we would get a reduction by that amount in that disbursement to make up for what. They basically are acting like the bank. They would issue the refund to Mitsubishi, and then they would make up for it when we get our property tax disbursement in June of 2019. And that full amount would come out of that disbursement all at one time.
Was the EDC advised of that when
Yes.
they made their, they did not prepare this resolution, and the resolution is not consistent with what council just voted on, just in terms of going forward. It waives non-compliance, allows them the remainder of the abatement, right, which could be interpreted, not the remaining years, it could be the remaining amount of the abatement that was not fulfilled. So I think we need to be very, very clear. The council was my point here today.
The way the county explained it is with these waivers, there's not a lot of rules. You can't, unfortunately, you can't restart the abatement. You can't start and do 10 years from today going forward because the property's been built and everything's done. You would either have to go back and figure that out, which we have done for property owners that have found this the first time. So the amounts are much smaller if it's only been 1 year. And if we've got it corrected and, that amount, we haven't, this is also a really large project. So that's how those have been handled in the past because the county did always used to send this form and then they decided that if they have these abatements, they should know what forms to fill out. They quit reminding people, and so we've had a lot of these the last couple of years. So now when we have a new abatement, we make sure, just because we don't want to deal with this either, and neither do the companies, that we remind them, since the county's not anymore. We do that just as a courtesy going forward, but in the meantime, the last couple of years, we've had several of these. This is the only one that has been a request for more than 1 year in arrears.
What is the total amount, Krista?
Yeah. So the total amount, it looks like to me, of everything moving forward, taxes with abatement. They have it figured 3 different ways. If we did by year, so if we refunded 15 pay 16 and 16 pay 17 and 17 pay 18, it's a total of $76,436.81.
Plus 10% statutory interest.
Yes.
What an investment. 10%.
Yeah. And that's just for one of them. And there are two. And those figures, I'd have to look at I don't know
I
which
thought this was together.
parcel they did this for, but, because they just have one on here.
So Krista, it's my understanding that the Economic Development Commission was willing to waive the first year and agree to give them a break for the first year. Is that not true?
No, the recommendation was, so because these forms have to be filed, they still have to file the form at the county, even to get, we still have to pass a waiver for them to get any
Understand that?
of the remaining years, and that was their recommendation from the HC, was to grant the waiver of noncompliance so that they could claim the remaining years of the abatement, but not to go back
All
and issue any kind of refund.
Not, okay, so not to go back.
No,
So what about the 1 year? I
No.
thought, no,
that was not their recommendation.
that was not the recommendation.
I believe that was mayor's recommendation.
Well, if we did anything, that's all I would say that we need to do, because setting the precedent, that's what
That's what we've done for other.
And, but moving forward, Mr. Austin, I've also asked the Community Development Corporation to look into clarifying to companies that we're not even gonna go back a year. If you miss, you miss. I mean, I don't see how these two can keep track of tax abatements for companies, and they're not on the company's payroll, they're on our payroll.
Understand that?
And so we're gonna have to clarify moving forward that if you miss, I mean, right up front, when you get your very first tax abatement,
Yes.
this is what you have to do, and make sure that people understand.
But I think it's our responsibility to make sure that the company has every document that they're responsible for, the city of Franklin's responsible for. That's what was important to me to convey to Krista and her team, is that moving forward, every single document that involves these multi-million-dollar deals, we need to make sure we're following up on it, we're making sure we're doing our due process, and doing our homework.
And I think we.
Which we do, and we always have done. It was brought to our attention with the first few of these that the county had changed their process and were no longer being proactive about these forms. And since we found that information out, we didn't know the forms existed either. We didn't know it was a problem. Because they're not our forms, we don't require them. We've never needed to know about them before.
So if you're filing with the county, do you get online to do that, or do you get mailed that stuff? I mean, there are forms online that you have to fill out to do that. Is that where it's at?
They're online, I don't know.
So it is
Honestly,
online,
once we turn everything into the county, we send a copy of what gets recorded at the county to whomever we've been working with on the tax abatement, and then we don't talk to them again until the first year when we get all of their compliance information in.
I mean, it's very
I
clear
don't
that
know.
the city of Franklin has not made a mistake.
No.
You and your team has not missed something. And it was
Sorry, Ed.
my understanding that we were willing to work with them and go back a year, not the full 3 or 4.
That was
Give them-
discussed at the meeting, but that was ultimately not the vote, the recommendation that was sent to city council. But yes, that was discussed.
Well, Krista, what was the vote of the EDC? Because they handle a lot of this and make recommendations to the council. And it was recommended to go forward and not go back
That's
on
correct.
any of it.
Yes, that was the recommendation.
And do you recall what the vote was?
It was unanimous.
Unanimous.
And Lynn, you said your concern was that the resolution reads that we're waiving non-compliance in the future?
It doesn't say future.
Okay,
And-
just
and
waiving the previous.
Specific, and I think just so this, everybody's clear what the intent is, and
Right.
it simply says council finds this non-compliance should be
Yeah.
waived, and MTA be granted the remainder of the abatement. I think
Right.
an argument could be made, if we weren't very clear, the remainder of the abatement is that $77,000 that they have not received for this 3 years. I think we need to be very clear. I didn't read the resolution.
Right, yeah, I
But
understand.
So we really weren't sure. I mean, this is the first time, we've never done one for more than a year, and we've never done one just going forward, so, yeah, there needs to be adjustments.
We're
There
gonna
needs
have
to
that
be,
conversation now, but
Yeah.
it is later on. That's correct, no problem.
but yes, it definitely does need to be clear so that the county also knows the steps they need to take, and whether they're refunding money or if they're just granting it moving forward, so.
My question, could you enlighten us with the way the EDC came to a unanimous vote to go forward and not go back a year or 3, 4 years?
Short of, I mean, just, I guess, I don't know what, if you have any input on that, or would wanna summarize, but I think they just were, their comments were just that this organization has had many abatements and should be more familiar with the process. I think that Bob has explained part of how that occurred with the real property versus personal property, that typically when these have occurred, it's the very first year, that the person gets their taxes and there's no abatement on it, and they are calling us frantically right away, and then we're transferring them to the county, and then we end up going through this waiver of non-compliance to correct that moving forward. And I think that was their frustration, that it's been 3 and 4 years, and that the amount has added up to such a large amount over those years. That's my understanding.
Yeah, can I make a comment too?
Sure.
They also stated that Mitsubishi was in compliance with the forms required by
The city.
Yeah. And so they didn't want to make a judgment, and they said, let the city council decide. So the recommendation was to go forward. But because the form that we were missing was not a city form, they didn't feel they could make a recommendation because the company was in compliance with the economic development.
So each year we look at, did they make the dollar amount investment that they stated on their original form? Did they hire the amount of people? Did they pay the wages that they said they would? And those things we have found to be in compliance every year of both of these abatements.
Chris, I'm having a deja vu moment here. Have we not talked about this before?
We did one,
I was gonna say one thing, add
we
something to that.
we did one previously for Mitsubishi, for a personal property abatement, just a couple, I don't know, six months ago.
That was that one was for the turbocharger side.
Yeah.
And this is how it came to light for climate control, because we hadn't filed the form. Because turbocharger not only hadn't filed that form, they hadn't filed all their yearly compliance
I
forms.
think they did.
We might have filed the first one, because I handled it for a while, and then they took over that responsibility, and they didn't do it again. And so they hadn't even filed the forms with the city for compliance, but ended up getting
Okay.
a favorable judgment on their money. So it's a little confusing to me.
What I would do is, I think it's I'm not speaking for the council, but my gut feeling is that, we would encourage whatever entities are under these things, that you guys kind of get those, it's your
Well,
responsibility.
it'll be done right.
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of a history here of, a little sloppiness, I guess. But I think the message that, you guys do a lot for our community, we know that, and it's been a good relationship with the city. And we love having you out there. But at the same time, it's egg on everybody's face when these things aren't done right. So that's all falls on you guys' bailiwick. Ultimately, we have people that, follow up on these things, but at the same time, that responsibility is yours. Somebody should be assigned that duty and, held accountable and make sure that this stuff gets done appropriately. I'll move that resolution number 1903 be approved.
For purposes of clarification, is your motion that non-compliance for future years be approved?
I think it's whatever, be consistent with whatever the prior resolution was.
And as I understood the prior resolution from Mr. Wertz, your intent was to not waive compliance for 16, 17, and 18, but for future years, allow filing of the form to allow them the remaining tax abatement on their future years.
Okay, I'm gonna back off my motion then, because I'm not sure I wanna make a motion to not approve the whole thing, so.
Okay, that's what
So I appreciate your clarification.
That's what I
I'll
wanted to make sure.
withdraw my motion.
Because the motion from the EDC, as I understood it, was to simply waive compliance in the future, to allow them to get their future rate, but not to go back retroactively and give them credit and therefore
For the
issue.
remainder of the
Of the 10 years.
existing abatement.
So it would be 7 additional years.
Correct.
That was the EDC's recommendation, and your motion was to approve it pursuant to the EDC's recommendations.
So we did not go back on it.
That's correct. And that was not the way the motion was. You need to do something different about it, I need to know about that.
I would move to table this, and Lynn, could you prepare a motion, or a resolution that reflects the intent of what Mr. Wertz and Mr. Hukin are wanting to do here?
Well, I think you're wanting to do 2 separate things, and certainly, sir, would be my
So
answer.
we can
I
have-
certainly do, but I need to know what it
No,
is.
I want to have both forms in front of me, and I want to look at the difference between the two. So I move to table this until next time, so we can get some more discussion and figure this out, so we're not.
Does it need to go back to the EDC? All right. And your motion is you want to consider perhaps going back retroactively, Mr. Dugan, is that correct?
Yeah, I would go back and all the way back and give them credit, but at the same time, I'd like to think about it. You know, this is our first look at it, and there's some dollars involved here.
And is everyone aware that you passed 1902,
Yes.
which did not give them any relief from prior years? And you passed it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 1. So that one has already been passed unless you take action to rescind that.
Drew, I would second the motion to table and review. My comment is, in the past, we have relied on the EDC for recommendations, and as a rule, for me, I've gone along with their recommendation and voted along the lines that the EDC has recommended, is how I feel. But I think tabling's fine.
But I, it'd be a stickler for details, folks, but you already have approved one
Yes,
resolution.
I understand that.
And
And
having this conversation, do you wish to,
I'm gonna make a motion after this one to rescind that, so we can look at both of them altogether.
that's what I want to make sure we have our record. Sir, I think your motion is to table this.
Okay, we have-
1903.
We have a motion to table, resolution number 19-03.
Second.
Okay, second by Mr. Richards. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
I now move to rescind Council Resolution 1902, so we can table it as well and get all this sorted out, so we can get these things on the same page.
Second. Second by Mr. Austin. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
One opposed, Mr. Ward. Okay.
I apologize.
Madam Clerk Treasurer, can we open that on the next agenda? Thank you.
Okay, that moves us on to the next item. Common Council Budgetary Resolution number 19-02. Okay, can we move forward, please? Common Council Budgetary Resolution number 19-02, authorizing the transfer from General Fund 101 to Rainy Day Fund 246, Clerk Treasurer James Rhodes.
Yes, this is basic housekeeping we do any and every new year. Our fiscally responsible department heads returned an amount of $557,864.26 to the general fund, and it has been our standard procedure to roll that amount over into the rainy day. And I just need your approval for that, please.
I don't want it on the record that the law department actually gave money back. That would be bad.
Too bad.
That would be bad.
I move to approve budgetary resolution 19-02.
Second by Mr. Allen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we'll go to the next one. Common Council Budgetary Ordinance Number 19-02, authorizing additional appropriation from the CCD Fund Capital in the amount of $1,115,300 into the record Perpetuation Fund Capital in the amount of $134,700 for construction of the city court. Gentlemen, if you see in front of you, I handed everybody a handout to show where we can get the funds and exactly what the cost breakdown is. You see the project cost where it says court, $694,974. I just wanted to break this out so everybody sees that it's not the court, we're not paying $1.1 million for the court. This is actually what the court cost will be. That all these other expenses did get triggered by moving our court to the police department, street department building. The records room, the $290,000, that is actually out in the garage area of the police department. And that is going to be split up between the court, the clerk treasurer, and the planning department. So out of this records perpetuation fund, that can be paid out of that, and that's where the total of it is going to be $134,367 out of that. That is in the court storage area, in the courtroom itself. There's 325 square feet that we can actually use those funds. And then the, out in the garage area, the total of that, the 290 can be divided by the 3, which is $96,667. So, and then you also see below that, the bench is the $41,150. The Board of Works approved not building a new bench earlier, but I wanted to put those funds, keep the appropriation there just in case we did get to the point we couldn't move the current bench that's at the court now, that we could simply go back to the Board of Works and see if they would approve to build a new court, but the funds would be there. The fire panel, $4,956.77. And then the parking lot, $46,562.45. That is also, the parking lot's not just for the court, it's also for the street department, and it's also for the police department. And then the street department on US 31, the $34,950. That is, whenever we build the court, we're moving some offices in the street department that has to be built back, so that triggered that. And then the street department on Hamilton Avenue, that's our maintenance building, it needs a new roof put on it, $23,505. So actually what we're gonna ask for, and then we're doing a 10% overrun, you see, times 10%, $113,000. We wanna make sure that we have enough money that we don't have to come back if there's any overruns to get the court done. But my hope is we're gonna appropriate $1,250,000, and I look for $100,000 of that to go back in the CCD fund when the project is done. So it doesn't mean that we're gonna use all that money, it just means it's there, we don't have to keep coming back to the council. So if I explained that or got you confused, I'll be willing to answer any questions.
That's a much helpful layout of what you got planned for that. I appreciate you breaking it out like that. So, thank you, Bob.
The record perpetuation fund is, that's money we have, we can't use it, unless it's solely for record perpetuation. And so that's why we don't take the whole amount, but there are certainly going to be areas designated in this construction project for the sole purposes of maintaining records. So, department, the LGF said as long as it's used solely for that purpose, then that would be an appropriate use of those funds.
And still have a nice balance left.
Yeah, that's correct. We've carried that balance for some time, haven't we, as for treasurer?
Seems like it.
So the mayor tried to find ways to find money that makes sense. We could use it for something that was okay, and we checked the LGF.
Well, I think it's a perfect, use of those funds.
And I will add the CCD fund, we had $1,632,000 in that. And we had bought, since I was on the council and the mayor, 2 fire trucks. I know that Mayor McGinnis bought some other vehicles for planning department and stuff like that out of there. And I had hoped to build that fund because we know Station 21 fire station at some point is gonna, is in dire need of some work or a new station, however we choose when that time comes. So we will continue to build that fund back up. When we're done appropriating the funds, we'll have $517,000 there. And like I said, I hope we can put $100,000 just back in that fund when we're done. So,
And yearly that gets additional appropriation into it, about 300 grand, is that right?
about $300,000.
Well, we knew this time was coming, Mayor, from the situation we're in, and obviously put ourselves in, in my opinion. I like the way the numbers have been presented, Mayor. I appreciate you at least pulling it out there and explaining it line item by line item. Thank you.
Judge Van Baylor's here. Do you have anything you want to add, Judge? I know we worked on this, I mean, it was several
years.
Yeah.
Several years. Kim Van Baylor, Franklin City Court Judge. I anticipated that I would hear this evening as an observer, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. That record perpetuation fund has about $412,000 in it. We started accumulating that when we started collecting late fees for people that don't pay their tickets on time. Didn't realize $25 a ticket was gonna get so big so fast. But the funds are very restricted, and I appreciate that we have segregated out the parts of the construction that will be used for record storage, because there are very strict rules on how we use that money. And so I'm glad that we can do it that way. So, hey, if you can knock out stuff and say it's storage, and it is intended for that purpose, well, then we've got a chunk of money we can offer up, and I'm happy we've been able to offer this amount up.
That's actually very helpful, Judge. Thank you.
Well, we had it available in any way that was statutorily possible.
Right.
So, if you have any other questions, I don't think people realize how much the city court brings in.
Mayor, I had one question, and I clarified with Mr. Littleton, on the break between the 2 meetings, concerning the IT. Cabling, cable's gonna need to be pulled, the Cat 5 cable's gonna need to be pulled and installed. That is not included in the quote. But I guess all the boxes and all the conduit and everything's gonna be there minus the cable.
Right, and Rick and his crew are wanting to pull the cables. They're wanting to do that.
So hopefully we'll do that at the same time.
Yes.
Because I think that's gonna be a seamless way of doing it versus putting everything in and then pulling the cable, because that'll be tough.
And then this way Rick can keep an eye on what he knows he needs to make it work.
And thanks to Rick for doing that, because that's gonna be a job.
He's been working, if you recall, we
It's a
partner with the schools, IT people too.
Absolutely, I
So
understand.
we've been at telecommunications meetings, which are month that this has been on the agenda. Let's get ready for this. So he's been partnering. He's enabling kind of one control so they can make sure system-wide it works.
Sure, absolutely. I'm encouraged.
I just want to add too, this is first reading tonight, it's introduction only. I failed to say that, and we're going to have I think we all agreed the last meeting, we have a special meeting on the 20th so we could hopefully approve the funding and move forward with the contractor. The contractor is in place. We're about a month behind on construction, which is nobody's fault. It's just how it works in government, what I found out. I think we've all found that out. But, so this is the first reading, so is there any more questions? We'll have a public hearing on the 20th.
Has that meeting been advertised?
It will be tomorrow.
Anybody who doesn't have any more questions? We did.
Okay.
We'll move on.
Okay,
Thank you, Jeff.
thank you.
Okay, we're gonna back up, I missed one. Common Council Budgetary Ordinance number 19-01, authorizing additional appropriation for non-tax supported funds. Ms. Rhodes.
Yes, sir. Once again, this is first of the year housekeeping. These are our non-tax supported funds that, what we do every year is we just go through and we appropriate everything that's in them so that departments have the authority to spend those amounts.
So today at the department head meetings, they were really dissecting this, trying to figure out, oh, wow, we got money here they didn't know about.
These are primarily, a lot of them are requests and donations.
Donations, that
and
type of thing.
things.
We can't make any action on this tonight, huh?
No, it needs, this is introduction on this.
Okay, next one. Request to declare stale, deleted checks canceled. Ms. Rhodes.
Yes, sir. State statute lets us, any check that's not cashed within 2 years, we have the right to cancel those checks and put the money everywhere that it needs to be, where it came from, so it goes back to the correct departments. It is a total of $1,526.51. $354.67 goes to the general fund. Parks gets back $518.59. Athletic and recreation, they get back $158.32. And sewer billing, operating, it's back $494.93.
I move to approve to cancel the checks as presented.
Second.
Second by Mr. Wertz. All those in favor?
Aye.
Next, request approval of encumbrances carried over 2019 for treasurer Ms. Rhodes.
Yes. These would be the encumbrances that, as I understand, Mayor Barnett, most of them are projects that are started and that will be completed. They were started in 18, will be completed in 19, and so we just encumbered the money to be able to bring it forward.
Yes, we already had the money approved. For example, we didn't get finished with all our paving projects last year, and that was a big chunk of it. So that's what this for, is projects that's already been approved, you're right. So we can approve this one tonight.
Mayor, I move to approve.
Second.
Jane, a question. In the Series 400, there's a rather large amount from prior years. Is that 17? The 324,000?
If it was appropriated in 17, it should have been spent in 17.
The encumbrances I see for 2018, then it says prior year, and that one is a big number, which is why it caught my attention.
I can check into that, tomorrow.
Is that one a,
CCD.
It's tip.
it's TIF? So
It's tip.
we have projects, and Kristen, you may help with this one, we have projects that's been encumbered several years, projects that's been started at the RDC that didn't get finished, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't believe those are listed on here,
because that's a separate fund and separate accounting, but those projects, if they're not finished, in the calendar year, we can encumber those into the next year, or we have to approve a new resolution. So like for our February meeting, we have 24 resolutions for projects, that we're gonna be acting on in February to make up for those that either couldn't be encumbered or have changed, and the amounts have changed, so we have to adjust those. But that's probably around, I think that's 1.4 million of RDC funds.
And the 325,000 would be prior 17 or back. 17, 16, 15.
I believe so, yes.
Right.
Okay.
It's in line with the TIF.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and those are always big because the projects are big.
That was the only question.
Okay, we have a motion and a second by Mr. Ayers, to approve the encumbrances. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. Request permission to add 2 lieutenant positions, police chiefs pro shop.
Thank you, council. I'm here tonight to ask for 2 lieutenants. We currently have 2 lieutenants. I'll give you a little history on why I feel strongly about asking for this request. I would never come to the council. I didn't feel that it was something that we needed. Upon taking this position as chief, part of my goal was to ensure that we put a team of leaders together that would provide the best quality police services for the city of Franklin. And I believe thus far, part of that move was to ask initially for a captain as part of our initial administrative team going in. Having done that already with the promotion of Captain Atwood, during that process, basically we were left without a lieutenant on one squad. Secondarily to that, I believe that we've put together a solid leadership team thus far. What we're missing in this puzzle here is, if you look at the ranking structure, we have currently 2 lieutenants, one on day shift, one on night shift. Both those lieutenants are responsible for 2 squads, A squad and B squad. And so what happens is they oftentimes find themselves split between shifts, and missing some of the time with the officers on the shift. Having said that, by adding these 2 lieutenants, we're not asking for, I want to make clear, we're not asking for more manpower, we're just asking for a move from sergeant to lieutenant for 2 individuals, 2 deserving individuals on the department. What that would do is provide us with a lieutenant on each shift. I believe retired lieutenant on each shift will attest that, you know, if we can continue to provide the solid ranking structure, it's only going to promote leadership with these guys that are here tonight. It's going to promote growth within the department, and it's going to definitely promote some accountability within the department. To me, that's a commitment I made to you when I stood here and took this oath. So I believe passionately that by bringing on these 2 lieutenants at a mere cost of $13,360, I mean, you can't put a price on accountability and protection for the citizens of Franklin. Again, I'm not asking you for any bodies, I'm just asking you for rank, so we can get this ship moving in the right direction. So far, I believe that as it reflects, these guys take the time out of their night to stop in. They believe in the mission, they believe in the administration. We want to continue to grow it and provide the best police services we can. So that's what I'm here.
Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, if I read this right, the longevity plan, actually, you're not even gonna need any more money this year due to the retirement of certain officers, is that right?
You can answer that, Jim.
Not really, because when a person retires, that, when we figure the budget for the next year, their retirement, their longevity is not figured into that.
Okay.
So with Captain Atwood is going to retire in June, and so his longevity for, that would be paid June 1st was figured in. His longevity that would be paid in December was not.
Okay.
So they will have to come back to you to move money or to add.
So the max we're looking at for this year is 13,000.
Right, and what I might add to that is, looking at the past year's appropriations that I got from Jane today, the police department, we've been operating pretty good, we haven't asked for a lot. We gave back $88,871 last year to the city, so I would say that.
And most likely they could probably
Right.
take it out of,
Yeah.
The other
you know,
thing,
their overtime or whatever within the 100.
yeah, the other thing to keep in mind is we do have some new officers coming on board, however, even though they are in our current budget, that money's not being spent. I know that it can only be used specific ways, but,
No, I'm looking around, I see at least 5 prior service military up here, so I understand that most of us understand the ranking structure and it builds cohesiveness and everything else, so I move to approve the change as presented. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to add the 2 lieutenant positions. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Thank
opposed?
you, council.
Okay, now, we will, I just want to clarify, we will have to come back with the wage ordinance to change that. So,
Correct.
and that's a 2 meeting, is that 2 meetings or 1?
Yes.
Just 2 meetings, so I would suggest to get that set up for the next meeting.
So the 20th will be an introduction and then
No, we can't do it on the 20th, I don't think. We can do it if we.
As long as I put it on the agenda.
Okay.
And it would be amended to the salary ordinance.
Right.
Okay. So we'll get it on the 20th.
Then it'd be for action, public hearing on
March.
Right.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, gentlemen, for the work you do. Doing a good job. Okay, next, request permission to apply for a non-matching grant through Firehouse Subs for 16 AED devices for vehicles. Patrolman Cody Martin.
Actually, I want to take Cody's spot. Cody's wife's pregnant, he had to go to Gordon class, so. I'm going with you. We asked earlier with Board of Works, Cody Martin has been an asset to us in this area. As I said earlier, we only come to the council every month and ask for money. So one of the things I did was just appointed basically someone to be our grant coordinator for the department. Cody, asked to do that. We sent you a couple of classes. Having said that, what we're doing now is we're just asking for permission. We're not asking, it's a non-matching grant that we're looking for through Firehouse Subs for some AEDs to be placed in vehicles, about 16 total. That would put one in each shift supervisor's vehicle, so we'd have one on the road at all times. Oftentimes, these fellows are on the scene before fire personnel. Currently, we carry Narcan without question. Having said that, we go on a lot of runs. This would be a beneficial tool, and I hate not to have to be able to save a life. So we're just asking for permission to allow Cody to continue to seek out grants, and this particular grant will put the 80s in the car, so to the tune of about $1,600. I know Cody met with fire chief and discussed what AED might be best for our agency. And we have all those. We don't have exact numbers because we don't know what kind of money we may get or not get. We may not get any. There's no guarantees. We're competing with other agencies and entities for that money. Rather than come and ask the council for more money, we figure this is a way to try and get it done. We're just asking for that, Mr.
Chief, I didn't know you guys didn't have AEDs. That's a good thing. I totally approve this. I do have a question over training.
Sure.
So Chief, would you be doing that? Fire department, all that kind of.
Actually,
Yeah, Scott's also certified to do that training for the defibrillators.
so everybody's already trained. Yeah. Yeah.
But if no one has that, I'll make a motion to approve, Chief.
Second. Second by Mr. Austin. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other business? Hearing none, we'll go to council comments. We'll start with you, Mr. Woods.
Okay, well, I was just gonna say, there's an RDC meeting February 19th at 8 a.m. in City Hall.
Mr. Hughes.
A couple things, one is I want to welcome you to the redevelopment commission.
Thank you, Bob.
And we work hard, so we do go into spring training soon, so try to be in shape for that.
And we get to go to the southwest or southeast for that also.
Second thing is just a point of clarification. I did not serve in the military. I would have gone had I been drafted, but I wasn't drafted, so I didn't go. But I did serve a summer Civil Air Patrol, so there you go. Then lastly, I want to wish the FCHS swim team good luck this week in the state. I had a daughter that swam the state some 19 years, 14 years ago, she'll shoot her for that, but it's an exciting weekend coming up. That's all.
Okay, Mr. Austin.
Mayor, I want to apologize for not being at that important Economic Development Commission meeting. I feel terrible about it. But I've been on that Economic Development Commission for 19 years, and, excuse me, 18 years. I worked for multiple mayors, and I take it very seriously, and as your appointment. I just want to apologize. I knew it was a big meeting, but like I told Krista and I told the mayor that, you know, up in advance, I could not physically be in two places at one time, and my business overshadowed my personal business. I had to be in New Albany at 9, I had a rep coming in from out of state, and I just couldn't miss it. So I do apologize to each and every one of you for not being there for that very important meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Austin. Mr. Abbott.
I just like seeing the street department out today on Lot 31, picking up all the trash and everything that's blown over. I know that's really not our responsibility, but the street department does a great job in that section. Other than that, great game last night.
Thank you.
Every time the Patriots plays an angel gets its wings.
Mr.
You know
Edwards.
what happened?
A lot of angels out there.
I think I've spoken enough for the evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the invitation.
Mr. Blankens. I have no comments, Mr. Richards.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to thank you for your expedient work in the street department for cleaning up a mess on West Court Street this afternoon. I made a call to the mayor, and a half hour later, I walked past the area, and all the broken glass was cleaned up in a half hour. So that was awesome.
Thank you, Mr. Street Department. Anything?
That's it.
Ms. Rhodes? Okay, I think that's all of our business.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Mr. Blankens.